Hi Crosspoint kids, happy Wednesday. It's time for another story time with us. This week I have my kitty joining us. Oh, she blends in with my sweater. Look, she says hi. So if you have any pets that want to join you this week, then bring them on in. Hopefully you're all in your PJs, all comfy and ready for our bedtime stories. This week we're going to start with a Bible story from our Jesus Storybook Bible. If you want to follow along, we're going to be reading The Singer. It's on page 228. Wherever Jesus went, lots of people went too. They loved being near him. Old people, young people, all kinds of people came to see Jesus. Sick people, well people, happy people, sad people, and worried people. Lots of them. Worrying about lots of things. What if we don't have enough food or clothes, or suppose we run out of money? What if there isn't enough and everything goes wrong and we won't be all right? What then? When Jesus saw all the people, his heart was filled with love for them. They were like a little flock of sheep that didn't have a shepherd to take care of them. So Jesus sat them all down and he talked to them. The people sat quietly on the grassy mountainside and listened. From where they sat, they could see the blue lake glittering below them and little fishing boats coming in from the night's catch. The spring air was fresh and clear. See those birds over there? Jesus said. Everyone looked. Little sparrows were pecking at seeds along the path. Where do they get their food? Perhaps they have pantries all stocked up? Cabinets full of food? Everyone laughed. Who's ever seen a bird with a bag of groceries? No, Jesus said, they don't need to worry about that, because God knows what they need, and he feeds them. And what about these wildflowers? Everyone looked. All around them, flowers were growing. Anemones, daisies, pure white lilies. Where do they get their lovely clothes? Do they make them, or do they go to work every day so they can buy them? Do they have a closet full of clothes? Everyone laughed again. Who's ever seen a flower putting on a dress? No, Jesus said, they don't need to worry about that, because God clothes them in royal robes of splendor. Not even a king is that well dressed. They had never met a king, but as they gazed out over the lake, glittering and sparkling below them, the hillsides dressed in reds, purples, and golds, they felt a great burden lift from their hearts. They could not imagine anything more beautiful. Little flock, Jesus said, you are more important than the birds, more important than flowers. The birds and the flowers don't sit and worry about things, and God doesn't want his children to worry either. God loves to look after the birds and the flowers, and he loves to look after you too. Jesus knew that God would always love and watch over the world he had made. Everything in it, birds, flowers, trees, animals, everything. And most of all, his children. Even though people had forgotten, the birds and the flowers hadn't forgotten. They still knew their song. It was the song all of God's creation had sung to him from the very beginning. It was a song people's hearts were made to sing. God made us, he loves us, he is very pleased with us. It is why Jesus had to come into this world to sing them that wonderful song, to sing it not only with his voice, but with his whole life, so that God's children could remember it and join in and sing too. All right, wonderful. And the other story we're going to be reading today, oh, you can see, look at her in the background. Is from a book, it's just called My Bedtime Book. It's very old, as you can see. This was another one of my favorites growing up. This was actually given to my mom by her grandma and grandpa, so you can imagine how old that is. And then my grandma used to read it to me when we would visit them. So there's 3 stories in here, and I'm going to read the first one. I like the first one. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of big, so we'll try to see how I can get the pictures in here. Might not work. This one's called Animal Friends. Once upon a time, in a small house deep in the woods, lived a lively family of animals. There were Miss Kitty and Mr. Pup, Brown Bunny, Little Chick, Fluffy Squirrel, Pokey Turtle, and Tweeter Bird. Each had his little chest and his little bed and chair, and they took turns cooking on their little kitchen stove. They got along nicely when it came to sharing toys, being quiet at nap times, and keeping the house neat, but they could not agree on food. When Miss Kitty cooked, they had milk and catnip tea and little bits of liver on their plates. Pup didn't mind the liver, but the rest were unhappy, and they didn't like any better the juicy bones Pup served them when it was his turn. When Bunny fixed the meal, she arranged lettuce and leaves and carrot nibbles with artistic taste, but only Tweeterbird would eat any of them, and Tweeter also wanted worms and crisp, chewy seeds. When Tweeter served the seeds and worms, only Little Chick would eat them, and Little Chick liked bugs and beetles even better. Pokey Turtle would nibble at Chick's bugs and beetles, but what he really hungered for were tasty ant eggs. Fluffy Squirrel wanted nuts and nuts and nuts. Without his sharp teeth and his firm paws, the others could not get a nibble from a nut, so they all went hungry when Fluffy served the meals. Finally, they all knew what must be done. They gathered around the fire one cool and cozy evening and talked things over. "The home for me," said Mr. Pup wistfully, "is a place where I can have lots of bones and meat every day." "I want milk and liver instead of bugs and seeds," said Miss Kitty, daintily smoothing her skirt. "That's the kind of home for me." "Nuts for me," said Squirrel, "and I'll get them myself." "Ant eggs," yawned Turtle. "Crispy lettuce," whispered Bunny. "A stalk of seeds," dreamed Bird, "and some worms would make a home for me." "New homes are what we need," said Mr. Pup, and everyone agreed. So bright and early the next morning, they packed their little satchels and they said their fond goodbyes. Squirrel did not pack. He waved goodbye to them all, for he had decided to stay in the house in the woods. This is all of them. He started right in to gather nuts. Soon there were nuts in the kitchen stove, nuts in the cupboards, nuts piled up in all the empty beds. There was scarcely room for that happy little squirrel. The others hopped along till they came to a garden with rows and rows of tasty growing things. "Here's the home for me," said bright-eyed brown Bunny, and she settled down there at the roots of a big tree. Little Chick found a chicken yard full of lovely scratchy gravel where all kinds of crispy, crunchy bugs lived. "Here I stay," chirped Chick, squeezing under the fence to join the other chickens there. Pokey Turtle found a pond with a lovely log for napping, half in the sun, half in the shade. Close by the log was a busy, bustling anthill full of the eggs the turtle loved. Tweeterbird found a nest in a tree above the pond, where he could see the world, the seeds on the grasses and the worms on the ground. "This is the home for me," sang Bird happily. Miss Kitty went on till she came to a house where a little girl welcomed her. "Here is a bowl of milk for you, Miss Kitty," said the little girl, "and a ball of yarn to play with." So Miss Kitty settled down in her new home with a purr. Mr. Pup found a boy in the house next door. The boy had a bone and some meat for Pup, and a bed for him to sleep in, and a handsome collar to wear. "Bow wow," barked Pup, "this is the home for me." That night, each one said as he went to sleep, "At last, I found the best home of all, the very best home for me." Thank you guys. I hope you had so much fun. We'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your week. Good night.